My son splashed boiling water on me on my birthday, but when he screamed, "Go die somewhere else," I didn't cry. I stood up and climbed onto the roof. What I found there left my entire family trembling. Can you guess what I saw? Stick around to the end to find out. The drizzle pattered on the tin roof, each drop tapping like it was knocking on my heart. I huddled on an old plastic chair, tucked away in the dark corner of the roof, with only the faint glow from a distant street lamp filtering through a gap. My hands were still shaking, not from the cold, but from the stinging pain on my arm where the scalding water had hit just hours before. My son Oliver's words echoed in my mind. Sharp as a blade, go die somewhere else. I closed my eyes, trying to push away the ache in my chest, but it clung to me, like the burnt smell of boiling water still lingering on my clothes. Today was my 63rd birthday. I'd been up since dawn, pottering about in the kitchen, preparing a simple spread sticky rice cakes, braised pork, pickled onions, hoping the family would gather round like we used to. I even dusted off the old family photo on the mantelpiece, the one from 10 years ago when Oliver still had a bright smile, his arm slung around my shoulder next to his dad. But Oliver didn't come home. He only showed up late in the afternoon, face twisted in a scowl, eyes bloodshot like he'd just had a row with someone. I tried to talk to him, but he snapped. I tugged him towards the dinner table, and he shoved my hand away. Then, like a sudden storm, he grabbed the mug of boiling water from the kitchen counter, flung it at me, and bellowed those words. The water burned, but his words cut deeper. I don't remember how I ended up on the roof. All I know is that after Oliver stormed out, I couldn't stay in that house any longer. This house, built with my sweat and tears, every brick paid for with pennies saved from market stall days. I just wanted to escape, to find a place where Oliver's shouts couldn't reach me. This roof, run down and covered in cobwebs and dust, was the only place that felt safe right now. I hugged my knees, my fingers brushing the silver ring on my hand, a gift from Oliver's dad before he passed. It felt ice cold, a reminder of everything that's broken. I took a deep breath, the musty damp of the roof mingling with the chill of the rain. My arm still throbbed, but I didn't dare touch it, afraid to face the burn. Instead, I gazed down at the courtyard. The 3-story house where I raised Oliver now felt alien. The living room light was still on, but no one was there. Oliver had left right after the incident, without a word of apology, without even glancing back. I wondered what had changed him. Where was the Oliver who used to sit by my side, chattering about school? I fumbled in my coat pocket and pulled out my battered old phone. The screen's cracked in one corner, but it still lit up when I unlocked it. There was an unread text from Emma, my next-door neighbor. "Hey, I saw Oliver with some stranger yesterday. Something's off. Keep an eye out." Yeah, my heart clenched. A stranger. Oliver never mentioned new friends or anyone beyond his old uni mates. I wanted to call Emma right then, but my hands were trembling too much to dial. Instead, I shoved the phone back in my pocket, my eyes fixed on the darkness below. A faint noise came from the corner of the roof. I flinched, nearly dropping the ring. Footsteps, or just a stray cat that sometimes prowls up here. I held my breath, listening. Nothing but the rain. Still, the unease wouldn't leave me. Then I remembered the old wooden box Oliver's dad left behind, stashed up here on the roof years ago. It held letters, photos, and a few odds and ends. I hadn't opened it since he died. But now, something urged me to look. Something in this house, in my own family, was being hidden. I stood, my legs wobbly on the slick tin roof. The rain had eased, but the wind still bit at my skin. I edged towards the corner where the box was tucked behind a pile of old cardboard. My hand brushed against thick dust. My heart pounding. Was I searching for answers or just running from the truth? When I pulled the box out, a small scrap of paper slipped free, glinting faintly in the dim light. I picked it up, and my heart stopped as I read the scrawled words, "Mom mustn't know about this." So, what would you do if you were me? A son who was once my whole world has turned his back on me. Not just with words, but with actions. I need you to help me uncover the truth. Like, share, and comment to join me on this journey. What's waiting in that box? And why does Oliver want me to go die somewhere else? Let's find out together. The rain had stopped, but the roof remained slick, droplets of water trailing down the tin sheets, dripping into the dark courtyard below. I sat slumped beside the old wooden box, the scrap of paper with the words "Mom mustn't know about this" still trembling in my hand. The faint glow from a distant street lamp barely illuminated the scrawled handwriting. Oliver's handwriting. I was certain. I'd recognize those messy loops from the days he was still learning to write. his wobbly letters filling the pages of his primary school exercise books. But now, those words felt like a knife, cold and unfamiliar. I set the paper down, my fingers brushing the silver ring on my left hand. It was worn and faded, but every touch brought back the day Oliver's dad slipped it onto my finger under the sycamore tree out front. "This is my promise to you," he'd said, his voice warm and steady. That promise was now just a memory. Like the days when our family still gathered around the dinner table, I closed my eyes, trying to hold back the tears. But they came anyway, salty and bitter. The burn on my arm still stung, but the pain in my heart was fiercer. I opened the wooden box, the rusty hinges creaking like a sigh from the past. Inside were yellowed letters, a few family photos, and a hand-stitched handkerchief I'd made for Oliver when he started secondary school. I remembered how he'd kept it tucked in his school bag, claiming it brought him luck. Now it lay here, coated in dust, forgotten. I picked up a family photo, my gaze lingering on Oliver's smile. A 16-year-old lad with messy hair, his arm around my shoulder, grinning from ear to ear. His dad stood beside us, a cigarette in hand, staring into the distance. That was the last summer we were truly together. Memories flooded back like an old film reel. I thought of the nights I stayed up late, hunched over a flickering lamp to check Oliver's homework. The mornings I pedaled him to the market, him chattering away behind me about school. The arguments with his dad, when he insisted Oliver attend a posh academy while I just wanted him to be happy. I'd given up so much my dream of opening a tailoring shop. The plot of land my mom left me, all so Oliver could go to university, so he could have a better future. But now, that future had turned its back on me, with a scalding mug of water and a venomous curse. A dog barked from the neighbor's house, snapping me back to reality. I glanced down at the courtyard. The living room light was still on, but the house felt lifeless, like a tomb. Oliver hadn't come back. Where was he? Who was he with? Emma's text flashed in my mind. I saw Oliver with some stranger yesterday. Who was this stranger? I wanted to call Emma, but my phone was dead, its cracked screen black as pitch. I slipped it back into my pocket, my fingers brushing the handkerchief in the box. As I did, another small piece of paper slipped from its folds, a bank transfer receipt, for an amount so large I had to rub my eyes to be sure. The recipient wasn't Oliver. It was a name I'd never heard. Henry Walsh. My heart raced. Oliver had never mentioned anyone called Henry. A friend, a business partner, or someone behind his behavior. I racked my brain, thinking back over the past few months. Oliver had grown distant, coming home late, sometimes reeking of whiskey. When I asked, he'd snap, telling me I wouldn't understand. Once, I caught him whispering on the phone in his room, his voice hushed as if afraid of being overheard. I chalked it up to work stress. But now, with this receipt, I wasn't so sure. I stood up, my legs numb from sitting too long. The night breeze swept through, carrying the scent of damp earth and a bone-chilling cold. I looked out over the neighborhood, the rooftops stretching into the distance, dotted with flickering lights. Emma's house glowed brightest, her window flung wide open, almost beckoning me. I wanted to run over, to demand answers, but my feet felt glued to the roof. If I faced the truth, could I bear it? Could Oliver, the boy I loved more than life itself, really want me gone? Another sound broke the silence, sharper this time, coming from the staircase leading to the roof. I froze, clutching the handkerchief. Was it Oliver, back at last? Or someone else? I held my breath, eyes locked on the darkness. A figure emerged, shadowy in the dim street light. It wasn't Oliver. This person was taller, their steps slow and deliberate, as if searching for something. My heart pounded, sweat beating on my skin despite the chill. I stuffed the receipt into my pocket, gripping the wooden box tightly. The figure stopped, then spoke, their voice low and unfamiliar. "What are you still doing up here? If you were me, how would you respond? A stranger appears on my roof in the dead of night, while my son has just turned his back on me. Could this person be tied to Oliver's secret?" The night wind grew fiercer, slicing through with a chill that made me shiver. I stood on the roof, clutching the wooden box, my eyes fixed on the figure who'd stepped out of the shadows. The stranger's low voice echoed in my mind. "What are you still doing up here?" I wanted to answer, to demand who he was, but my throat was dry, choked by fear and suspicion. In the dim glow of the street lamp, I could only make out a tall figure in a dark coat, his face hidden in the gloom. He stood still, as if waiting for my reaction. "You shouldn't be here," he continued, his tone steady but laced with a subtle threat. "Go back down before things get worse." I gripped the box tighter, the silver ring on my finger biting into my skin, cold as ice. I wanted to ask about Oliver, about the name Henry Walsh on the receipt, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I stepped back, my foot brushing against the pile of old cardboard, making a dry, hollow sound. He didn't move closer, just stood there, like a phantom in a nightmare. Then, like a flash, his phone lit up, casting a blue glow across his face. I couldn't see clearly, but it was enough to know he wasn't anyone I recognized. He glanced at the screen, muttered something under his breath, and turned to descend the stairs, leaving me in the darkness. My heart pounded, sweat beating despite the cold. I didn't dare move, only sank to the ground, hugging the box like it was my last shred of hope. Who was he? How did he know I was here? And most importantly, what did he have to do with Oliver? I opened the box again, my hands trembling as I pulled out another photo. This one showed Oliver with a few mates, likely from his uni days. I recognized one of his close friends, Tommy, but the taller figure next to him, in a dark coat, looked oddly familiar. I rubbed my eyes, straining to see better in the faint light. Was it the man from the roof? I couldn't be sure, but unease surged like a tide. I stuffed the photo into my pocket alongside the bank receipt, resolved to get answers. The next morning, I climbed down from the roof, my legs aching from hours curled up in the cold. The house was still silent. No sign of Oliver. In the kitchen, I saw the mug of now cold water on the counter, a cruel reminder of last night. I poured a glass of water, my hand shaking so much that some spilled onto the floor. The faint smell of yesterday's sticky rice cakes lingered, but it only made my stomach churn. I needed to see Emma. If anyone knew what was going on with Oliver, it was her. Emma's house was just a few doors down, her front door always open, the scent of incense drifting from the small shrine in the corner. She was out on the porch, shelling peanuts, her sharp eyes flicking up as I approached. Blimey, Sarah, where were you last night? You look like death warmed up, she said, her voice warm but tinged with curiosity. I sank onto a plastic chair and poured out the story, Oliver splashing boiling water on me, his vicious words, and the stranger on the roof. Emma listened, her hands pausing mid-shell, her face hardening. Sarah, I'm telling you, Oliver's been acting odd lately, she said, lowering her voice and glancing out at the street, as if someone might overhear. Last night, I saw him out by the lane, talking to some bloke, not one of his mates older, dressed smart, but something felt off. They were going on about money, and Oliver handed him a thick envelope. My head spun, my ears ringing. An envelope? Money. Could it be tied to the receipt I found? Emma pulled out her phone and showed me a short clip from her security camera. In the grainy footage, I saw Oliver standing next to a tall man in a coat. The man took the envelope from Oliver, gave him a pat on the shoulder, like sealing a deal. I held my breath, trying to zoom in, but the man's face remained blurry. Ever seen this chap before? Emma asked. I shook my head, but the image of the stranger on the roof flashed in my mind. I told Emma about the bank receipt. The name Henry Walsh. She frowned, as if sifting through her memory. Henry rings a bell. Maybe that solicitor who's been hanging around the notary office nearby. But you need to watch yourself. Sarah, this isn't straightforward. She handed me a glass of water, her voice dropping. Has Oliver ever mentioned anything about debts? Or gambling? I froze. Gambling. Oliver had never touched that sort of thing, or so I thought. Back home, my mind was a whirlwind. In the living room, I sank onto the sofa, my eyes drifting to the family photo on the table. Oliver's smile in the picture felt like a mockery now. I pulled out the receipt, rereading the words. The sum was staggering, impossible to imagine Oliver having access to if it wasn't gambling. What was it? I stood and walked to Oliver's room, a place he rarely let me enter. The door wasn't locked, but the stench of cigarette smoke hit me like a wall, making me cough. On his desk, a mess of papers, and among them, a contract with Henry Walsh's name and Oliver's signature at the bottom. My hand shook as I lifted the document. It was a contract for the sale of land, the last piece of land I owned, the one Oliver's dad left me. Oliver had signed it away without a word to me. My heart shattered. But what chilled me to the bone was a note pinned to the contract. In Oliver's handwriting, once this is done, Mom won't be in the way anymore. If you were me, what would you do? Discovering your son secretly sold off your family's legacy. Does Oliver truly want me gone? Or is someone pulling his strings? Like, share, and comment to help me unravel this mystery. Where does this contract lead? And who was the stranger on the roof? Let's find out together. The morning sun slipped through the gaps in the curtains, casting faint streaks of light across the floor. I sat on the sofa, still clutching the land sale contract, The words, "once this is done, Mom won't be in the way anymore," etched into my mind. That plot of land wasn't just property, it was a lifetime of sacrifice for me and Oliver's dad. We used to sit under the sycamore tree on that land, dreaming of a little house for Oliver one day. Now, Oliver had signed it away without a word to me. I wanted to scream, to call him home and confront him. But deep down, I knew I had to stay calm. If Oliver could do this, someone else was pulling the strings. I tucked the contract into my coat pocket and stood, my legs still shaky from a night spent on the roof. The house was eerily quiet, save for the steady tick of the wall clock, reminding me time was slipping away. I needed to see Emma. But first, I decided to search Oliver's room again. There might be more clues I'd missed. I pushed open his door, the air thick with cigarette smoke, and a strange hint of unfamiliar cologne. On his desk, amidst a jumble of papers, I found a crumpled business card, Henry Walsh, property consultant. It listed a phone number and the address of a notary office nearby. My heart raced. Emma was right. This name wasn't a coincidence. I slipped the card into my pocket and grabbed my phone to call Emma, but the screen was still dead from a drained battery. I rummaged for the charger, plugged it in, and while waiting, I glanced out the window. The street looked as peaceful as ever, kids playing, the hum of motorbikes in the distance, but it felt like the world was hiding something from me. When my phone flickered to life, a new text from Emma popped up. "Sarah, I'm free this afternoon. Pop round. We need to talk." I quickly changed, grabbed my old straw hat, and stepped out. The street was bustling, but everything felt hazy, like I was walking through a dream. Emma's house was the same as always, the faint scent of incense drifting from her open door. She was on the porch, sipping tea, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Sarah, come in. I've just brewed some jasmine tea. Have a cup. It'll perk you up." Her voice was gentle, but I could see the worry in her eyes. I told her about the contract, the business card with Henry Walsh's name, and the cryptic note. Emma listened, her grip tightening on her teacup, her face growing stern. "Sarah, I know this Walsh bloke," she said, her voice low. "He's not local. Been showing up at the notary office for about a year, snapping up land on the cheap. Anyone who deals with him ends up in trouble. Word is, he works for some shady group not exactly above board." She paused, studying me as if weighing her words. "Do you think Oliver's been roped into something?" I was stunned. Roped in. Oliver was clever, a university scholarship boy, my pride and joy. But thinking back, he'd changed so much these past few months, the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the cold glares. But why would he do this? I asked, my voice breaking. Did he need money so badly he'd sell his dad's land? Emma sighed and stood to fetch a small notebook from inside. "Sarah, I didn't want to worry you, but I've been keeping an eye on Oliver for a while. I overheard him on the phone out in the lane once, talking about paying off a debt and don't let Mom know. And I'm not sure. But he might be in deeper than you think." She handed me the notebook, pointing to a page filled with dates and scribbled notes. I jotted down every time I saw him with someone odd. Yesterday, Walsh didn't just take an envelope from Oliver. He gave him something small, and Oliver hid it in his pocket straight away. I read the notebook, each line stabbing at my heart. Oliver had met Walsh 3 times this month, always late at night, always in the quiet end of the lane. I thought of the stranger on the roof last night. Was it Walsh or someone else from this group Emma mentioned? I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in a maze with no way out. "Emma, what do I do now?" I asked, my voice trembling. She took my hand, her touch warm but her eyes resolute. "Sarah, you're his mom. You're stronger than you know. Don't confront Oliver yet. I'll help you dig into this Walsh character. But you need to be careful. If Oliver's being pressured, the people behind it are more dangerous than we think." I nodded. But inside, I felt hollow. As I left Emma's, I carried her notebook like a map into the unknown. On the way home, I stopped by the notary office listed on the business card. It was a small white building with gleaming glass doors. I lingered outside, peering through the window, and saw a middle-aged man in a suit talking to a client. Was that Walsh? I didn't dare go in, just stood there, clutching the notebook. When I got home, the front door was slightly ajar. My heart leapt. Had Oliver come back? I pushed it open, calling his name, but only my echo answered. Then I heard a faint noise from upstairs, like footsteps. I gripped the notebook, my other hand touching the silver ring for courage. As I climbed the stairs, a shadow darted across the hallway. Quick as a ghost. "Oliver," I called, but there was no reply. Only a scrap of paper on the floor, with a scrawled message, "Stop digging. It's dangerous." The scrap of paper lay on the floor, its chilling warning glaring up at me, "Stop digging. It's dangerous." I stood frozen in the hallway, the light from the window casting shadows over the scrawled words, making them even more menacing. The sound of footsteps had vanished, leaving only the heavy silence of the house. I bent down to pick up the note, my hands trembling so much I nearly dropped it. The handwriting wasn't Oliver's, but it felt vaguely familiar, like something I'd seen before. I stuffed it into my pocket alongside the contract and Henry Walsh's business card, my heart pounding as if it might burst. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water, but I couldn't bring myself to drink. The faint smell of the sticky rice cakes from my birthday lingered, now bitter and nauseating. This house, once a warm home, felt like a labyrinth of secrets. What was Oliver hiding? And who was the person who slipped into my house, leaving that threatening note? I sat at the table, flipping open Emma's notebook, rereading her notes about Oliver and Walsh. Each line was a puzzle piece, but the full picture still eluded me. I knew I couldn't confront Oliver directly, not out of fear, but because I needed to understand what was happening before everything fell apart. I grabbed my phone, now fully charged, and texted Emma. Someone was in the house. Left a threatening note. "Can you help?" "Within a minute," she replied, "Sarah. Don't do anything rash. I'll come over this afternoon with someone who can help." I nodded to myself, clinging to a flicker of hope. But deep down, I was terrified. If Oliver was caught up in something dangerous, could I pull him out? Or was I walking into a trap? I decided I couldn't just wait in fear. To uncover the truth, I had to act, but carefully. I remembered the notary office near the house where Henry Walsh worked. That was the place to start. I grabbed a small notebook and jotted down a plan, watch the office, learn more about Walsh, and most importantly, keep Oliver in the dark about my suspicions. I didn't want him to think his mom was spying on him, but I couldn't let him sink deeper into whatever darkness he was in. That afternoon, Emma arrived, but she wasn't alone. With her was a man in his 50s, graying hair and a weathered face, but with sharp, piercing eyes. "Sarah, this is Tom, a mate of mine who works in the county's legal department," Emma said, her voice low. "He knows about dodgy land deals." I invited them in, pouring tea with hands that still shook. I told them everything: the land sale contract, the business card, the threatening note, and the figure in the house. Tom listened silently, nodding and scribbling in a small notebook. "Sarah, I'll be straight with you," Tom said, his voice calm but firm. "This Walsh isn't a simple bloke. I've heard of him acts as a middleman for cheap land deals, but they're often trouble. One family sold through him and lost everything to a fake contract. If Oliver's tangled up with him, he might be coerced or lured." My head spun. Coerced, lured. My Oliver, the boy who earned a uni scholarship, my pride and joy. How could he end up like this? Tom suggested a plan: I'd visit the notary office, pretending to inquire about buying land, to gauge Walsh's reaction. Meanwhile, Emma would keep an eye on Oliver, tracking who he met and where. "But Sarah, you've got to stay calm," Tom stressed. "If they know you're digging, they'll move first. And then, it's not just Oliver in danger, you will be too." I nodded. But inside, I was torn. Part of me wanted to run to Oliver, hug him, and demand why he'd done this. Another part wanted to face Walsh and take back the truth. That evening, I stood outside the notary office, my straw hat pulled low to hide my face, my hand gripping my bag tightly. Through the glass, I saw Walsh, the man in the suit, talking to a client. He smiled, but it was a cold, fox-like grin. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. "Hello, madam. Here to ask about something," he said, his voice smooth as silk. I pretended to inquire about local land prices, my voice shaky but trying to sound casual. He answered fluently, handing me a folder of documents. But his eyes stayed fixed on me, as if probing. When I left the office, I clutched the paper Walsh gave me, detailing a plot of land. But what sent a chill down my spine was a small note tucked inside, likely forgotten. "Meet Oliver. 8 p.m. Corner Cafe." My heart raced. I texted Emma immediately, telling her what I'd found. She replied, "Sarah, I'll go with you tonight. Don't go alone." That night, Emma and I sat in a dim corner of the Corner Cafe, hats pulled low, pretending to read a newspaper. Oliver walked in, wearing a black coat, his eyes darting around as if he feared being followed. Then Walsh appeared. Sitting across from him, they spoke in hushed tones, too quiet for me to hear. But when Walsh slid an envelope to Oliver, and Oliver glanced around nervously, I saw his eyes, not the eyes of a traitor, but of someone terrified. Then, abruptly, Oliver stood and left the cafe, leaving a scrap of paper on the table. When Walsh was gone, I slipped over and grabbed it. The words on it stopped me cold. If Mum finds out, she'll die. If you were me, what would you do, knowing your son is being threatened? Who is this she, and why is Oliver so afraid? Like, share, and comment to help me uncover the truth. Where will this meeting lead us? Let's find out together. The note trembled in my hand, its words cutting like a knife. If Mum finds out, she'll die. I stood in the dim corner of the corner cafe, the yellow glow of the lights casting shadows on Emma's worried face. Oliver had just left. His steps hurried, as if fleeing from something. Henry Walsh had vanished into the bustle of the street, leaving Emma and me with the cryptic note. Who was she? And why was Oliver, the son who once meant the world to me, entangled in such a terrifying secret? I slipped the note into my pocket, trying to keep my voice steady as I turned to Emma. I've got to find Oliver now. He's in trouble. Emma, she nodded, taking my hand, her warmth a small comfort against the chill spreading through me. Sarah, I'll ask around. See if anyone knows anything about Walsh or this woman. But don't do anything rash. If Oliver's being forced, you need to stay safe to help him. I nodded, but my mind was a storm, unable to stop thinking about the fear in Oliver's eyes as he left the cafe. On the walk home, the night streets were alive, but I felt alone under the street lamp's glow. The house loomed ahead, dark and silent, a reminder of our fractured family. I pushed open the door, the faint smell of the birthday rice cakes now gone, but the memory of Oliver's scalding water still burned. I sat on the sofa, rereading the note. Could it be Oliver's girlfriend, someone important to him? I racked my brain, but Oliver had never mentioned a girlfriend or anyone special. He'd been so guarded, especially since his dad passed. My phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was my sister, Claire, her voice thick with worry. Sarah, where are you? Oliver just called me, ranting about you not interfering. He was practically shouting, telling me to keep you out of his business. I froze, gripping the phone. Oliver called Claire. Why was he dragging the whole family into this? Claire, did he mention anything about a woman? I asked, my voice trembling. She hesitated. Not really. But he once brought up someone called Lily, said she was a colleague. Sarah, I'm worried. Oliver's not himself. Lily. The name sparked something in my mind. I remembered Oliver bringing home a handkerchief once, not the one I'd made, but a delicate one embroidered with flowers, carrying a faint scent of perfume. When I asked, he'd brushed it off with a smile, saying it was a gift from a colleague. I hadn't thought much of it then, but now the name Lily sent a chill through me. Was she the she in the note? And why was Oliver so afraid she'd die? The next morning, I resolved to visit Oliver's workplace, a small construction firm on the outskirts of town. I'd never been there. Oliver always said he was too busy and didn't want me meddling, but now I had no choice. I put on a simple dress, pulled on my straw hat, and tried to look calm, though my heart was racing as I entered the office. A young woman with short hair, dressed in a crisp white shirt, greeted me at reception. I'm Lily, she said softly. Who are you here to see? I froze. Lily. Was this her? I pretended to be there to drop off food for Oliver, saying I was his mom. Lily smiled, but her eyes flicked over me, as if sizing me up. Oliver's not in today. I'm afraid. He's taken a few days off for family matters. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, I was burning off. He hadn't told me. I left the office, but not before noticing Lily pick up her phone, her fingers flying across the screen, her face tense. On the way home, I called Claire and told her about Lily and what I'd seen. Sarah, I think you need to talk to Oliver, but be careful, she urged. I'll ask my husband. He's got mates in the police who might look into Henry Walsh. I thanked her, but as I hung up, I felt our family splintering. Claire was worried, but I could tell she was also frustrated with Oliver for dragging us into this mess. As for me, I wanted to protect him, but I also needed the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That evening, I sat in the living room, the lamplight glowing over the family photo. The front door creaked open, and Oliver walked in, his face gaunt, his coat streaked with mud. He looked at me, his eyes a mix of anger and exhaustion. Mom, why do you keep sticking your nose in my business? He snapped, his voice trembling. I stood, ready to ask about Lily, about Walsh, but he cut me off. You don't get it. Mom, stop making things worse. He turned to leave, but I grabbed his arm. Oliver, tell me, who are you protecting? Who's Lily? He yanked his arm free, his eyes red and glistening. Don't bring up Lily, he shouted, then stormed out, the door slamming behind him. I stood there, my hand still outstretched, as if I could hold on to something already gone. Then I heard a buzz from the sofa, Oliver's phone, left behind. A text flashed on the screen, Oliver, don't let your mom know about Lily. Walsh won't forgive you. If you were me, what would you do? Knowing your son fled, leaving behind a secret tied to someone's life. Who is Lily? And why is Henry Walsh so terrifying? Like, share, and comment to help me dig deeper into this story. Where will this secret lead us? Let's find out together. The slam of the door as Oliver stormed out still echoed in my head, like a hammer striking my heart. I stood in the living room, my hand still outstretched, grasping at the ghost of my son, but finding only cold air. His phone lay on the sofa, its screen glowing with the text, Oliver, don't let your mom know about Lily. Walsh won't forgive you. I picked it up, my trembling fingers brushing the screen. Password. I tried Oliver's birthday. Then mine nothing. Finally, I entered the date of his dad's memorial, and the screen unlocked. I froze. Oliver still remembered that day. So why was he pushing me away? I scrolled through the messages, my heart pounding. Dozens of texts from an unsaved number chilled me to the bone. Pay on time. Or Lily's in danger. Don't tell your mom. She'll ruin everything. Walsh is losing patience. I read them over and over, each word a needle in my chest. Oliver wasn't just being coerced. He was protecting Lily. But from what? And why hadn't he come to me? I slipped the phone into my pocket, unable to sit still. The house was silent except for the relentless ticking of the clock, like a countdown. I called Emma, telling her about the text and the row with Oliver. Sarah, I spoke to a maid at the notary office, she said, her voice urgent. Walsh isn't just a property middleman. He's tied to a loan-sharking ring that targets young people like Oliver. If he's in debt to them, this is more dangerous than you think. My legs went weak, and I gripped the table to keep from collapsing. But who's Lily? I asked, my voice breaking. Emma hesitated. I'm not sure, but she could be someone Oliver loves. Sarah, tonight Tom and I will come over. We need a plan. If Oliver's being forced, you've got to pull him out. I nodded, though she couldn't see me, my heart heavy. I wanted to believe Oliver was still the son I loved, but his actions, the scalding water, the cruel words haunted me. I decided to search Oliver's room again, hoping for more clues. In a desk drawer, under a mess of papers, I found a small wooden box, intricately carved. Inside was a silver necklace with a heart-shaped pendant engraved with Lily. My heart clenched. This had to be hers. But what froze me was a folded note beneath it. If you don't pay up, Lily pays the price. Walsh, I clutched my head, fighting to stay upright. Oliver was being threatened, and Lily, likely the woman he loved, was in danger. Why hadn't he turned to me? I thought of his eyes last night, angry yet terrified. Was he protecting me, thinking I couldn't handle this? Or was he afraid I'd be dragged into this deadly mess? I tucked the necklace and note into my pocket, determined to find Lily before it was too late. That afternoon, Emma and Tom arrived. Tom brought a stack of documents, his voice steady but firm. Sarah, I've got info on Walsh. He works for a loan-sharking outfit linked to shady property firms. That land sale contract was likely Oliver's attempt to pay off a debt, but the amount wouldn't clear it, so they're still pressuring him. I showed him the note from the box. He frowned. Lily might be a hostage or their way of controlling Oliver. Emma took my hand, her eyes welling up. Sarah, I know you're hurting, but Oliver hasn't betrayed you. He's trying to protect someone, maybe you too. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to believe her, but the pain choked me. Tom suggested, Sarah, I'll contact a mate in the police, but you need to find Lily. If she's the key, you have to reach her before Walsh acts. I agreed, though my mind was in turmoil. I pictured Lily's face at the office, her wary eyes, using Oliver's phone. I texted her number, Lily. This is Oliver's mom. I know what's happening. Meet me tonight. Corner Cafe. 8 p.m. I wasn't sure she'd come, but I had to try. As I hit send, the phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You've gone too far. Stop, or Lily won't get another chance. My heart stopped. I showed the text to Tom, who shook his head. Walsh knows you're digging. Sarah, you need to be extremely careful from now on. I nodded, but inside, I'd made up my mind. I wouldn't stop, not for revenge, but to save Oliver and Lily. I pulled on my coat, grabbed my straw hat, and headed for the corner cafe. But as I opened the door, I saw a figure standing in the lane under the street lamp. Not Oliver, not Walsh. It was Lily, her face pale, eyes red and teary. She looked at me, her voice trembling, Mrs. Sarah. I don't want Oliver to die. But if you keep going, neither of us will make it. If you were me, what would you do? Faced with a terrified young woman begging you to stop. What does Lily know? And why does she think both she and Oliver are doomed? Like, share, and comment to join me on this journey. This secret is leading us into a dangerous dead end. Let's find out together. Lily stood in the lane, the street lamp casting a pale glow on her tear-streaked face. Mrs. Sarah, I don't want Oliver to die, but if you keep going, neither of us will make it. Her words hit me like an icy wind, sending a shiver through me. I wanted to pull her inside, to demand answers, but the fear in her eyes stopped me. I took her hand, my voice trembling. Lily, tell me what's happening. Is Oliver being forced? And who are you to my son? She stepped back, clutching her small bag, her eyes darting down the street as if someone were watching. Not here. It's too dangerous, she whispered. 8 o'clock tonight. Corner Cafe. I'll tell you everything, but you have to come alone. Before I could respond, she turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving my heart pounding. I watched her fade away, feeling the world crumbling beneath me. Back home, I sank onto the sofa, my fingers tracing the cold silver ring on my finger, a reminder of happier days when our family was whole. Oliver's phone lay on the table, its screen flashing with a new text from an unknown number. You met Lily, didn't you? Stop, or you'll see blood. I shuddered, my hand shaking so badly I dropped the phone. Who was watching me? Henry Walsh, or someone else lurking in the shadows. I texted Emma, telling her about Lily and the threatening message. She replied instantly, Sarah, don't go alone tonight. Tom and I will be nearby, just in case. That evening, I arrived at the corner cafe early, my straw hat pulled low, sitting in a shadowy corner with my eyes fixed on the door. The place was busier than usual, soft music mingling with the murmurs of customers. I gripped my hot tea, its warmth doing little to ease the chill in my heart. At exactly 8, Lily walked in, wearing a long coat, her hair tied up, her face still pale. She sat across from me, her hands trembling on the table. Mrs. Sarah, I'm sorry for dragging you into this, she began, her voice barely audible. Oliver didn't want you to know because he's afraid you'll get hurt. Or worse. I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice steady. Lily, you have to tell me everything. Who does Oliver owe? Who's Henry Walsh? And why are you in danger? She bit her lip, her eyes scanning the cafe. Oliver's in debt to some people because of me. I borrowed money from Walsh to pay for my mom's treatment. The interest piled up, and I couldn't pay. When Oliver found out, he took on the debt for me. But they forced him to work for them selling land, forging documents. He didn't want you to know because he was scared you'd try to stop him, and they'd come after you. My head spun, my ears ringing. Oliver did all this to protect Lily. The scalding water, those words I whispered, my voice breaking. Lily bowed her head, tears streaming down. He didn't mean it, Mrs. Sarah. He was under pressure. Walsh called him on your birthday, threatening me if he didn't finish the land deal. Oliver, he lost control. I gripped her hand, fighting back tears. Lily, why didn't you both tell me? I'm his mother, I could have helped. She shook her head, her voice choked. You don't understand. Walsh isn't just one man. He's got a whole network people in the police, in local government. If you interfere, they won't spare you. She paused, pulling a small USB drive from her bag and sliding it toward me. This is what Oliver's been collecting: recordings, documents about Walsh and his group. He wanted to take it to the police, but he's afraid it's not enough. I took the USB, my hands shaking. This was what Oliver had risked everything for. But before I could ask more, Lily stood, her eyes wide with panic. They're here, she whispered, nodding toward the door. I turned and saw 2 men in black coats walk in, their cold eyes scanning the room. One of them was Henry Walsh. I pulled Lily down, shielding her behind me. Lily, come with me. I'll get you somewhere safe, I said, my voice firm despite my racing heart. But she shook her head, tears in her eyes. I can't run. If I do, they'll go after Oliver. Keep the USB and give it to someone you trust. I'll stay and hold them off. Before I could stop her, she stood and walked toward Walsh, feigning calm. Mr. Walsh, I'm here, she said, her voice trembling. He smiled, a serpent's grin. You know you shouldn't be here. Little lady, he said, motioning for the other man to grab her arm. I wanted to rush forward, but a text from Emma buzzed in my pocket. Sarah, don't move. Tom and I are calling the police. Keep the USB and get out now. I gripped the USB, my heart burning. I slipped toward the back door, my eyes locked on Lily, the small figure facing Walsh. As I stepped into the alley, I heard her scream, "Mrs. Sarah, save Oliver." Then a loud crash, like shattering glass. If you were me, what would you do? Watching a young woman risk everything to protect your son. What secrets does this USB hold? And can I save Oliver and Lily? Like, share, and comment to join me on this journey. This confrontation is just the beginning. Let's find out together. The crash of shattering glass from the corner cafe pierced the night, sharp and jarring. I stood in the alley, clutching the USB Lily had given me, my heart pounding. Her scream, "Mrs. Sarah, save Oliver," echoed in my mind, a desperate plea. I wanted to rush back into the cafe, to pull Lily from Henry Walsh's grasp, but Emma's text held me back. "Sarah, the police are coming. Get out now and keep the USB safe." I bit my lip, tears streaming down as I forced my trembling legs to move into the dark alley. Each step was a battle between a mother's instinct to save her son and the fear that I might make things worse. Back home, the door was still ajar, the house silent as a tomb. I locked it, drew the curtains, and sank onto the sofa, gripping the USB. It was tiny but heavy, as if it held Oliver and Lily's fates. I plugged it into my old laptop, the screen flickering to life with a folder containing audio files and documents. I clicked the first file, and Oliver's voice came through, trembling but resolute. "Walsh, you can't keep forcing me. I sold the land, but I'm done forging documents." Walsh's reply was cold. "You think you have a choice. Oliver, Lily's with us. One wrong move, and she's finished." I clapped a hand over my mouth, stifling a sob. Oliver wasn't just coerced, he was trapped in a criminal web. I opened the next file, a document listing land deals, including the plot from Oliver's dad. But what chilled me was another contract, signed by Margaret Tran, Lily's mother. Walsh wasn't just targeting Oliver. He had Lily's family in his grip, too. I recalled Lily's words at the cafe she'd borrowed money for her mom's treatment. Was Walsh using Margaret to control Lily, and Oliver to protect them both? My phone buzzed. "Tom, Sarah." The police reached the cafe, but Walsh and Lily were gone. They slipped away. "Where are you? Are you safe?" I told him about the USB and what I'd heard. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "That USB is crucial. Sarah, you need to hand it directly to the police. Don't keep it at home. Walsh might know you have it." I nodded. Though he couldn't see, my mind a mess. I wanted to find Oliver, to know if Lily was safe, but I knew I had to protect this evidence first. I tucked the USB into my coat pocket, about to call my sister Claire for help, when a noise from upstairs startled me. Footsteps, light but distinct, moving across the floor. I held my breath, clutching the silver ring on my finger, and crept up the stairs. The hallway was dark, lit only by faint streetlight filtering through the window. I pushed open Oliver's door and froze. Not Oliver, not Walsh. An older woman with silver hair stood by his desk, holding our family photo. She turned, her eyes sharp but her voice soft. "Sarah, I'm Margaret, Lily's mother. We need to talk." I was stunned, my feet rooted to the spot. "Lily's mother, in my son's room. How did you get in here?" I asked, my voice trembling. Margaret set the photo down and stepped closer, her eyes filled with pain. "Sarah, I'm sorry for all of this. Lily and Oliver are caught up because of me. I borrowed money from Walsh for my treatment, but when I couldn't pay, they forced Lily to work for them. Oliver found out and tried to protect her, but now they're both in danger." I sank into a chair, my head spinning. "Why didn't Oliver tell me? I'm his mother." Margaret sighed, her eyes red. "He was afraid you'd try to stop him and Walsh would target you. Walsh doesn't just want money, he wants control. Your land, the fake contracts, it's all a trap to keep Oliver and Lily in line." She pulled a letter from her bag and handed it to me. "Lily left this for me before Walsh took her tonight. She said to give it to you if something happened." I opened the letter, Lily's trembling handwriting spilling across the page. "Mrs. Sarah, I'm sorry. Oliver did everything to protect me and my mom. Walsh wanted me to forge documents, but I refused. If I don't come back, get the USB to the police. Don't let Oliver keep paying the price." Tears fell, soaking the paper. Lily was taken. Oliver was hiding. And I, a mother, stood powerless on the edge of this abyss. Margaret took my hand, her voice firm. "Sarah, we have to save our kids. I know where Walsh might be holding Lily, But you need to decide, give the USB to the police or go after Lily first. I looked at her, then at the family photo on the desk. Oliver, my whole world, was risking his life for a girl he loved. I gripped the letter, my heart burning. Then a loud noise erupted from outside, roaring motorbikes, and a familiar voice shouting, "Mom, where are you? If you were me, would you choose to save Lily or hand over the USB to end this?" Oliver's back. But is this Walsh's trap? Like, share, and comment to face this shock with me. The truth is pulling us into danger. Let's find out together. Oliver's shout from outside, "Mom, where are you?" cut through the silence of the house like a bolt of lightning. I stood frozen in Oliver's room, clutching Lily's letter, beside Margaret, Lily's mother, who had appeared like a ghost from the past. Margaret gripped my hand, her eyes steady but anxious. "Sarah, be careful. If Oliver's back now, Walsh might be close behind." My heart raced, torn between joy at hearing my son's voice and dread that this could be a trap. I stuffed the letter and USB into my coat pocket, took a deep breath, and hurried downstairs. Oliver stood at the door, his coat streaked with mud, hair a mess, his face gaunt as if he'd run miles. When he saw me, his eyes lit up for a fleeting moment before darkening with fear. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling, stepping forward to hug me tightly. I froze, the warmth of his embrace pulling me back to the days when he was little, clinging to me in fear. But then I remembered the scalding water, his cruel words, and the secrets he'd kept. I gently pushed him back, my voice firm. "Oliver, tell me the truth. Where's Lily? What's Walsh doing to you?" Oliver bowed his head, his hands clenching into fists. "Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't want to hurt you. But Lily, they're holding her. I had to do what Walsh said, or they'd kill her." I heard Margaret descend the stairs, her voice shaking. "Oliver, why didn't you tell your mom? We're family, we could have helped." Oliver looked at her, eyes red. "Mrs. Margaret, I tried, but Walsh has people in the police, in the council. If I fought back, it wouldn't just be Lily. Mum would be in danger too." The ground seemed to collapse beneath me. My son, the boy I raised, was risking everything for Lily, pushing me away to protect me. I wanted to hold him, to say I forgave him, but the pain still choked me. "Oliver, I have Lily's USB, I said, my voice resolute. "I'm taking it to the police. You can't keep going like this." He panicked, grabbing my hand. "Mom, no. If Walsh knows you have it, they won't spare you. I'll find a way to save Lily. Just let me handle it." I shook my head, clutching the silver ring on my finger. "Oliver, I'm your mother. I can't watch you sink deeper." I turned to Margaret. "Do you know where they're holding Lily? We need to act now." She nodded, pulling out a scrap of paper with an address. A warehouse on the outskirts. I overheard Lily mention Walsh uses it to hide people and documents. "But Sarah, it's dangerous. We need the police." I called Tom, explaining everything. He promised to contact his friend in the investigations unit, but warned, "Sarah, the police need time to verify the USB. You and Oliver mustn't go to the warehouse. It's too risky." But as I hung up, I looked at Oliver, seeing the desperation and resolve in his eyes. "Mom, I have to save Lily. If you want to hand over the USB, do it. But I can't wait." Before I could stop him, he bolted out the door, vanishing into the night. 2 weeks later, everything had changed. The police, armed with the USB, arrested Walsh and several accomplices. Lily was rescued from the warehouse, but she was badly injured and needed weeks in hospital. Oliver came home, but he wasn't the same. He spoke little, his eyes distant, carrying scars that wouldn't heal. I gave the USB to Tom, who confirmed it held enough evidence to convict Walsh. Recordings, fake contracts, and a list of other victims. The house was quieter than ever. Oliver no longer smiled like he did in the family photo on the table. Each evening, he sat alone in the garden, staring at the sky, searching for something lost. My sister Claire visited often, trying to bridge the gap between me and Oliver. But every time I looked into his eyes, I saw regret and a distance I couldn't close. Margaret came by regularly, bringing news of Lily. She was recovering, but her spirit was broken. Margaret said Lily felt guilty for dragging Oliver into this and was too ashamed to face me, fearing the pain I'd endured. I didn't blame Lily, she was a victim. Like Oliver, like me. But each time I looked at the family photo, I wondered, could we ever go back? One afternoon, I sat in the garden, turning the silver ring on my finger. Oliver came out, for the first time in days, and sat beside me. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said, his voice hoarse. "I didn't want to hurt you, but I didn't know what else to do." I looked at him, wanting to say I forgave him, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I took his hand, feeling the warmth of my son's touch. But as I opened my mouth to speak, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Walsh wasn't the top dog. Watch yourself. Sarah, if you were me, what would you do? Facing a new threat after thinking the nightmare was over. Who's behind Walsh? And what do they want? Like, share, and comment to join me in this new chapter. The truth is pulling us deeper into danger. Let's find out together. The text from the unknown number Walsh wasn't the top dog. Watch yourself. Sarah landed like a stone in a still lake, sending ripples of fear through me. I sat in the garden, still holding Oliver's hand, but the chill from the message made me shiver. Oliver looked at me, worry etched in his face. "Mom, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I wanted to shield him from this new nightmare, but I knew we couldn't keep running from the truth. I handed him the phone to read the text. His face paled, his hand clenching so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Mum, I thought it was over," he whispered, staring into the distance. "Walsh is locked up. Lily's safe. I thought we were free." I squeezed his hand tighter, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Oliver, we've been through too much. Whoever's behind this, we'll face them together. But you have to promise me no more secrets." He nodded, but his eyes were heavy, burdened by a debt he couldn't repay. The next morning, I called Tom and told him about the text. He was silent for a moment, then said, "Sarah, I'll pass this to the investigations team. The USB mentioned a few other names, but we don't know who's at the top. You and Oliver need to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone." I thanked him, but deep down, I knew I couldn't just wait. I needed to see Lily, to find out if she had any clues about this top dog. I texted Margaret, Lily's mom, asking how she was. She replied, "Lily's awake but weak. Come to the hospital this afternoon if you want to see her." That afternoon, I arrived at the hospital with a small bunch of daisies, Lily's favorite. She'd once told me she lay in bed, her face pale, but her eyes brightened when she saw me. "Mrs. Sarah, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice faint. "This is all my fault, Oliver, and you suffered because of me." I took her hand, shaking my head. "Lily, you're not to blame. But I need to know, do you have any idea who's behind Walsh?" I got a threatening text. Her eyes widened, and she trembled. "A text. Can I see it?" I showed her the phone. She read the message, her hands shaking. "Mrs. Sarah, I'm not sure. But when I was held in the warehouse, I overheard Walsh talking on the phone to someone he called the boss. He mentioned cleaning up if he got caught. I couldn't hear much, but the voice, it was so cold. Her eyes welled up. "I'm scared Oliver's still not safe. He's done too much for me." I comforted her, but inside, I felt suffocated. I left the hospital, my mind reeling with questions. Who was this boss? And why were they still after me? When I got home, Oliver was in the garden with my sister, Claire. She looked at me, her eyes full of worry. "Sarah, Oliver told me about the text. We need to sit down as a family and sort this out. He can't keep carrying this alone." I agreed. That evening, Oliver, Claire, Margaret, and I sat around the dining table. For the first time in ages, the family was together, but not for celebration, for facing an invisible threat. Oliver recounted everything, how he met Lily, learned about her debt, and was forced by Walsh to sign the land sale contract. "I just wanted to protect Lily and you." "Mum," he said, his voice breaking, "but I messed up. I put you in danger." I took his hand, tears streaming down. "Oliver, I don't blame you. From now on, we face this together." Margaret nodded, her voice firm. "Sarah, Lily and I will testify to the police. Whoever's behind this, we can't let them keep controlling us." Claire chimed in. "Sarah, I've spoken to my husband. He's got contacts in a special investigations unit. They'll protect us. But you and Oliver need to hand over all the evidence." I agreed, but my heart was heavy. The bridge between Oliver and me was cracked, though we were trying to mend it. Oliver looked at me, his eyes sincere. "Mum, I won't hide anything anymore. I promise." I nodded, but before I could reply, my phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. "Think your family's safe. Meet me, 9 p. Old warehouse. No police, or you'll never see Oliver again." I showed the text to everyone. Oliver shot to his feet, his face ashen. "Mom, I'll go. I'm not letting you go alone." Claire grabbed my hand, her voice trembling. "Sarah, don't go. It's a trap." But I looked at Oliver, then at Margaret, and knew I couldn't stop. "I'm going," I said, my voice steady. "But not alone. We'll face this together. If you were me, what would you do, facing this final threat? Is the warehouse meeting a chance to end it all, or a deadly trap? Like, share, and comment to stand with me in this moment. The truth is leading us deeper into danger. Let's find out together." The final text, Think your family's safe. Meet me, 9 p. Old warehouse. No police, or you'll never see Oliver again cut through me like a blade. I stood in the dining room, the eyes of Oliver, Claire, and Margaret fixed on me, waiting for a decision that could change everything. Oliver gripped my hand, his voice trembling. Mum, I'm coming with you. I won't let you go alone. Claire shook her head, tears in her eyes. Sarah, it's a trap. We need to call the police. But I looked at Oliver, seeing not just fear but a resolve to face his mistakes. I squeezed his hand and said, We'll go, but not recklessly. I have a plan. I called Tom, telling him about the text and our intent to go to the warehouse. He nearly shouted through the phone, Sarah, don't go. I've contacted the investigations team. They're watching that warehouse. Just hand over the USB and wait. But I knew if we didn't show, the mastermind might harm Oliver or Lily. Tom, I'm going, but I'll bring the police. Be ready, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my heart. I turned to Oliver. You're coming with me, but you listen to me. No heroics. That night, the old warehouse stood alone on the outskirts, bathed in faint moonlight. The wind carried the smell of oil and damp earth. Oliver and I stood at the gate, my hand clutching the silver ring for courage. The investigations team, Tom had assured me, was positioned around us, but the chills still seeped into my bones. Oliver looked at me, his voice low. Mom, if anything happens, you run. Let me handle it. I shook my head, gripping his hand tighter. I'm your mother. We face this together. The rusty iron gate creaked as a man stepped out, not Walsh. He was tall, dressed in a black suit, his face cold but his eyes sharp as knives. Sarah, you're braver than I thought, he said, his voice low and menacing. Hand over the USB and I'll let your boy go. Oliver stepped in front of me. Who are you? Where's Lily? The man smirked. Lily's safe for now, but only if Sarah cooperates. I pulled the USB from my pocket, holding it up but not handing it over. You want this? Release Lily and tell me who you are, I said, my voice firm despite my racing heart. He stepped closer, but before he could act, floodlights blazed and police sirens wailed. The investigations team swarmed from the shadows, restraining him in seconds. Oliver hugged me tightly, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Lily was found in a small room inside the warehouse, weak but alive. The police confirmed the man was the mastermind behind Walsh, running a network of loan sharks and forged documents. Lily's USB provided enough evidence to dismantle the entire operation. But as Oliver and I returned home, our hearts remained heavy. We'd survived the storm, but the scars lingered. A month later, our house was no longer silent. Oliver spoke more, though his smile hadn't returned. Lily, after recovering, visited with a hand-stitched daisy handkerchief, a thank you gift. Margaret and Claire came often, bringing family dinners, trying to mend our cracks. But each time I looked at the family photo on the table, I wondered, could we ever be what we were? I sat in the garden one afternoon, turning the silver ring on my finger. Oliver joined me, sitting close, his voice low. Mom, I know I messed up. I promise you'll never have to climb onto the roof again. I smiled, the first real smile in ages, but my heart still carried a quiet ache. Was this journey worth it? I'd saved Oliver and Lily, but the cost was wounds our family would always bear. The house stood firm, but the roof where I'd once fled now symbolized survival and loss. I looked up at the sky, a faint moon rising. Our future was uncertain. Oliver would keep living, Lily would heal, and I'd remain a mother, my heart scarred but beating. Could we truly find each other again? I didn't know, but under this roof, we still had each other, and that was enough. If you were me, what would you think? Looking back on this painful journey, our family is mending, but the cracks remain. Like, share, and comment to share your thoughts. Our story ends here, but the future is open. Let's reflect together.